الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصام، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء، اللهم اغفر لكل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فادح من البلاء يقلت وكم من عثار وقيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد آمالي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومطالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا، مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا، لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي. يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي، أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي، أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقة وبشكرك مادحة، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة، وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعة وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنة. ما هكذا الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم. يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه، قليل مكثه، يسير بقاؤه، قصير مدته، فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي، لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته؟ فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك،
فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي، صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك، وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك، أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك. فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا، لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيجا آمنين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين إطباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربه أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كانت لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمت وكل ذنب أذنبت وكل قبيح أسررت وكل جهل عملت كتمته أو أعلنت أخفيته أو أظهرت وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهدان ما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيته وبفضلك سترته وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزله، أو إحسان تفضله، أو بر تنشره، أو رزق تبسطه، أو ذنب تغفره، أو خطأ تستره. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا، وبخدمتك موصولا، وأعمالي عندك مقبولا، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. قو على خدمتك جوارحي، واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرح إليك ميادين السابقين، وأسرع إليك في المبادرين، وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين، وأخافك مخافة الموقنين، وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فارد، ومن كادني فكد، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك، وأقربهم منزلة منك، وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجدني بجودك، واعطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك. واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما، ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، وأقلني عثرتي، واغفر زلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني مناي، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا، يا سريع الرضا، يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه المنتجبين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today I would like to briefly discuss a hadith which is narrated from our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhim as-salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And this hadith is quoting Luqman. Luqman, known as Al-Hakim, a very wise figure in history. There is a surah of Quran and verses of the Quran that quote his wisdom and his advice to his son and his family. And there is a dispute among scholars of the Quran and Islamic scholars. Was Luqman al-Hakim a prophet, or was he not a prophet but just a man of great wisdom whom Allah has praised and has quoted in the Quran? But regardless of that discussion, we find that not only in the Quran but also in ahadith, there are words of wisdom attributed to Luqman and quoted by our Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. One of those quotations is this hadith from our sixth Imam, in which it is reported that he said, قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِبْنِهِ Luqman told his son, لِلْحَاسِدِ ثَلَاثُ عَلَامَاتٍ. A person who is hasid or jealous has three signs or attributes. So before we mention those attributes, a word about hasad. Hasad or envy is a sin in Islam. And it is defined as the desire for an other person not to have a blessing or a ni'mah which they possess. That definition is given to us in a hadith attributed to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, Al-hasidu yara anna zawal al-ni'mati amman yahsuduh ni'matun alayh. A person who is jealous, they have this mistaken idea that for a blessing to be removed from the person they are jealous of, that is a blessing for them. So let's say, for example, that I am in a class and I am maybe not putting in as much effort as I can, and so my grades or my recognition from the teacher is not as great as somebody else. Now, one possibility is that I look at those people who are better than I am and I say, I wish I were like them. They are getting an A in the class. I wish I could get an A. They are getting recognition from the teacher. I wish I were getting a similar recognition from the teacher. This is not hasad, and this is not haram. In fact, it is a good thing because the Quran says, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. Compete with one another and vie with one another in what is good. Now, the goal is not for me to compete with you. The goal is for me to do the best that I can for the sake of Allah. So if I see that you are ahead of me in class, the ideal situation is not for me to say, oh Allah, give me an A because so-and-so has an A. Oh Allah, give me expertise in this subject because this other person has expertise and is getting recognized by the teacher. But فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ is one way for us to discover what is our potential and what is possible and what is the way to attain success. So the ideal is you do it for Allah and not to compete. But in many cases, the reality of life is that it is only through competitiveness that we are able to say, this is possible for me. It happens all the time in our life, that you don't even think something is possible. Let me just give a simple example. If you have a hard time memorizing a few surahs of Quran, maybe for you a big deal is, okay, I have memorized now, for example, 4 or 5 surahs of the Quran, because I am struggling with that, and it's a challenge for me. And then I meet somebody, they have memorized Ayatul Kursi. Now, Ayatul Kursi is longer than the surahs that I have memorized, but now I say, well, if this person, they're 10 years old, 8 years old, they can memorize Ayatul Kursi, I can do it as well. Then I meet somebody, I'm struggling with memorizing Suratul Kafirun and Suratul Falaq, and they have memorized Suratul Fajr, which is a little bit more than 1 page of the Quran. Until now, I haven't done that, but I realized, okay, if they can do it, then I can do it. And maybe I ask them, how did you memorize this? How do you keep it in your mind? Then maybe I meet somebody who has memorized Suratul Insan, or Surat Yasin, or even longer a surah, and then it comes in my mind that this is possible as well. Maybe I'll meet a Hafiz of the Quran, and I'll say, okay, I guess it is possible to memorize the Quran because so many other people have done it. Now, my goal is not, if you know Ayatul Kursi, I need to know Ayatul Kursi because I can't be behind you. If you know Surat Yasin, I need to memorize Surat Yasin because I cannot be behind you. But knowing that you have done it, it gives me a broader horizon that this is possible. It's not impossible. And it might also give me a little bit of a way to do it, because I can ask you, brother, if you memorized these surahs, how do you do it? What is your method? And I can learn. So this is not hasad. This is competitiveness, and although it is not an ideal spiritual state, it can be a means for you to come closer to Allah. By broadening your horizon, by realizing your potential, and by developing a plan of action based on what you see the other people doing. To go back to the example in class, if you see somebody who is succeeding in class, some people, they just have a talent for a subject. They don't put any effort in, and they get good grades. But generally speaking, those people who are successful, they show up. They don't skip class because they were a little bit sleepy or a little bit hungry or they weren't feeling at the top of their physical health. They sit in the front. They are not distracted by what other people are doing or what is going on online or what updates are there on their phone. So I can look at those habits that you need to show up, you need to pay attention, you need to sit close to the front of the class, and you need to participate. I pick up those habits, and then I too will be able to become a better student. This is called ghibta, where I look at somebody else, they have a good thing that is recommended in Islam, like good grades, beautiful recitation of the Quran, memorization of surahs of the Quran, and I say, I want to have what they have. That's not a bad thing. It is a good thing. It is called ghibta. The goal is that when you see what they have, don't ask it and pray for it because you want to be better than them. Ask it and pray for it from Allah because it is a good thing and that person has opened your eyes to the possibility and the way of attaining it. So ghibta can be a means to come close to Allah. It is not haram. It is not makruh. Hasad is something else. Imam Ali is reported to have said, Al-hasidu yara anna zawal al-ni'mati amman yahsudu ni'matun alayh. The blessing that I want is not this person is able to memorize the Quran. Oh Allah, I want to be able to memorize the Quran. This person is able to recite the Quran beautifully. Oh Allah, I want to recite the Quran beautifully. This person has attained an education and is able to support themselves and support their family. Oh Allah, I want to be successful in my education. I want to be able to support myself. I want to be able to establish a family. That's not hasad. A hasad, the case of hasad is where I see that you have a blessing and I say what I want is for you not to have that blessing. Zawalun ni'mati amman yahsudu. So Imam Ali says, if I see that you are getting an A, I hope you fail the next test. That'll put you in your place. I see that you got a raise, and I say, I hope you get fired from your job. I hope that you get reprimanded. I see that you are playing very good in sports, and I say, I hope that you make a very embarrassing miss on your next attempt to make a goal, and that everybody laughs at you. And you have to walk off the field in tears. This is hasad. Not that you have something good, I want to get it, but you have something good, I want you not to have it. And you can see that hasad is not just a bad thing for the individual, but it is a race to the bottom for society. Because rather than learning from others and bettering ourselves, I have an excuse to be lazy because I want to undermine and bring down other people. Rather than looking at my goals on the basis of my trust in Allah and on the basis of my abilities and my potential, I am just comparing myself to everyone else. So if everyone else is ignorant, then I don't have any motivation to become knowledgeable because I am not seeking knowledge for the sake of Allah and for the sake of purification and for the sake of following in the footsteps of Ahlul Bayt. I just want to know more than you. And so, if you are ignorant, I'm very comfortable being ignorant. If you learn something, then I have a motivation. But that motivation is not a positive motivation, it is a negative motivation. I hope you lose the blessing that you have. It's a very poisonous and it's a very dangerous thing, and it is prohibited. This is what Luqman al-Hakim said, there are 3 attributes. Now, when we mention these attributes, I should examine and see if I have them within myself. This is the way that you can determine and diagnose a disease that you have within yourself. Because sometimes we have spiritual sicknesses, and we don't realize it. Or we justify and we say, no, the reason why I don't like this person, it's because they're arrogant. It is because they're not sincere. It's because there is this mistake or that fault in what they are doing. I make an excuse for my dislike or my anger or animosity towards another person when in reality I am jealous. If you ever experienced it where somebody criticizes you, it often happens with a parent. They give you a harsh message or a criticism, and sometimes because you don't want to accept that maybe that criticism is valid, or maybe it is not valid, but there is a basis and a reason for what they are saying, and I should still be humble even if I don't think that criticism is true. So what do? We put up a defense mechanism. A parent, a family member, a friend, well, you always do this. You always say this. You don't understand me. So this is a defense mechanism, and I don't realize that there is a mistake or a sickness within myself. So Luqman al-Hakim is giving us 3 symptoms, 3 tests that you can use to determine, do you have this disease of hasad? So that's the first reason why this hadith is important. The second reason is that you should also examine your friends and your colleagues. Not to go and say, you have cancer, you have hasad, you have a sickness, but to examine what kind of friends am I making? What kind of people am I associating with? Because in many cases we associate with people who have these spiritual sicknesses, and the reason is that they are often more pleasant to be around or more exciting to be around than somebody who is pious. Many times people think that pious people are boring. They don't gossip. They don't dare us to do something that is haram. If I mention something that is questionable or haram, they might say, well, this might be ghibah, let's not talk about this. This is not relevant to us, let's not talk about this. This is probably not a good show to watch, this is probably not a good thing to do, let's do something else. So in reality, that person is the best thing that I can have in my life. But I would rather have the friend who says, let's go to a restaurant, than the friend who says, let's go to Dua Kumail on Thursday night. Now, of course, those of you who are present, if you had that friend, then probably we wouldn't be in each other's company and we wouldn't have this benefit. But this is a human nature that sometimes we don't realize that what seems to be exciting, what seems to make a very fun friend is actually a bad thing. So let me diagnose myself with these symptoms, and let me also take stock of who are the people that I spend time with, and I want to be popular in their circle, in their eyes, and let me see if they are people who are worth that respect and that position. And if not, then let me make sure that I make friends and I value friends who have a healthy spirituality. So the 3 attributes, and then inshallah we will conclude soon after that. Number 1, يَغْتَابُ إِذَا غَابَ. When they are not present, then they do ghibah. They gossip. It might be exciting, it might be fun, but remember that a person who gossips about others when they are with me, they are going to gossip about me when I am with others. So let me examine myself. Do I have that tendency that when somebody is not there, I talk about them and I say negative things that would be hurtful if they were to hear? That's called ghiba. To say something that is negative and hurtful, if the person were to hear it, then they would be hurt or offended. Do I have that tendency? This is one of the symptoms of ghiba, of hasad, to do ghiba. And do I like the company of people who gossip because they're exciting and they're fun and they talk a lot and there's never a boring or a dull moment with them? If so, then I am likely to be hurt by that association. It's a diseased person that I am associating with. So the first attribute is يَغْتَابُ إِذَا غَاب. When they're absent from somebody, gossip. وَيَتَمَلَّقْ. Then they are always trying to curry favor when they are in somebody's company. So if I'm there, then I'll try to always say something to be popular. Now, this can be mistaken for sincerity. Some people, they do ghiba and they say, well, I don't like to lie. I'm a straight shooter and I'm honest. Well, ghiba is when something is true. If it weren't true, then it would be buhtan. It would be a tuhmat. It would be a false accusation. That's an even bigger sin. Ghiba is if I say something that is true, but that is not worthy of being said by a dignified and a respectable and a courteous person, a mu'min, a faithful person. Similarly, sometimes when we do tamalluq, we make an excuse for that. We say that, well, I want to keep the peace. But we shouldn't falsify our affection, and we shouldn't be honest in saying what is hurtful or offensive or will bring down other people. So two attributes: when they're absent, they gossip, and if it's true, that doesn't justify it. When they are present, they will try to curry favor and be obsequious, we call it, to be over complimentary and praising in a false and insincere manner. That is not a good attribute. So these are two of the attributes that are mentioned in the hadith. When they are absent, they do ghiba. When they are present, they do tamalluq, and they try to curry favor. وَيَشْمِتُ بِالْمُصِيبَةِ. And the third attribute is that when they see somebody having a musibah, the thought that enters into their mind is, serves them right. They deserve it. I'm glad of it. Sometimes we have bad experiences with our family members, with our friends. But when somebody has a musibah, that is a time for us to forget our grudges and our anger and to say, what can I do to help? And if I can't do anything practically to alleviate their hardship, at the very least, then I should offer my sympathy and my prayers. So 3 attributes. Gossip when you're not there, currying favor when you're there, and to take pleasure in the misfortune of others, to gloat. These are the 3 symptoms of the envious person, or hasid. Look for that within myself. If so, then be aware that I have a spiritual disease which needs to be cured. Last thing I will say is there are 3 stages of hasad mentioned by ulama. One of them is beyond your control. That when you see somebody in a good state, beyond your own desire, you think, I wish they didn't have that. They don't deserve it. They didn't work hard, why did they get a good grade? They didn't put as much effort in it, how come they got a promotion, I didn't get a promotion? This is beyond your control, this is not a sin. The second stage is where you deliberately think about that thought which comes in your heart. There's nothing you're showing, nothing you're saying, but you are within your own mind, what would it be like if the day after they got the promotion, they got laid off? Now I am engaging in that fantasy or that thought, this is haram. I didn't say anything to the person. I didn't insult the person. I didn't sabotage the person. But deliberately engaging in that thought within my own mind, this is putting poison in my soul. And eventually that will become my dream. Eventually that will become what keeps me awake at night. Eventually it will even show up in my words and in my actions. So the haram begins not when you say something evil, but even when you deliberately think something evil. In fact, that thought which comes beyond your control, the way to avoid it is by not engaging in the thinking and the daydreaming when you do have control. And the third and worst stage is when you manifest your jealousy. By word or by deed, this is haram, but even the stage before that is poison for your soul. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the ill and from the sin of hasad. Once again, the hadith from Imam Ja'far Sadiq, narrated from Luqman al-Hakim, is لِلْحَاسِدِ ثَلَاثُ عَلَامَات. There are 3 signs of a person who has hasad. يَغْتَابُ إِذَا غَاب. They gossip when they are not there. When they are present, they do tamalluq and they kind of insincerely curry favor. And وَيَشْمِتُ بِالْمُصِيبَةِ. They are glad when other people suffer harm. May Allah guide us and protect us and give us the good company of people who are protected from this evil. Let us conclude with Surah Al-Fatiha for our marhumin and for the marhumin of our community members, ulama, shuhada of Islam. Surah Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. There are many members of our community who are ill. We pray to Allah for their sihah and their shifa. Many of them have asked us for our du'as, for the well-being and the cure of all of those who are ill. Let us recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Inshallah, we have a few minutes until the time for Maghrib, so we can use that time for refreshments and